Amina looked at her horrified. "This is disgusting, Zinzi. How can you allow someone to do this to you?" "What did you expect, Amina? I told you I'm a hustler," Zinzi replied sharply. "Oh no, Zinzi. Letting rich men defecate on you for money is definitely not hustling." Hey tale lovers. Before we dive in, a quick note. The subject of this video may be a bit intense for some viewers. If you recall the scandal from 3 years ago, you'll know what's ahead. So if you're sensitive to darker tales, we recommend exploring one of our other videos. Please take care of yourself first. But if you're staying with us, enjoy each moment, and we hope you take away some valuable lessons. Thank you for being here. Amina and Oumou were two best friends living in a small African city. They had grown up together in a poor neighborhood, sharing dreams of a better life. Both were brilliant students, always bringing in top marks and ranking highest in their schools. They were gifted with exceptional talent for learning. After graduating from high school, Amina and Oumou passed all their university entrance exams and were accepted into a very prestigious university. Amina would study advanced mathematics, while Oumou was set for law school. But there was a problem. They didn't have the money to pay the tuition fees. They worked during the summer break to save money, but they only earned enough to cover the registration fees. When the academic year started, Amina and Oumou studied hard, hoping to secure good jobs one day. But paying for school was difficult. Despite working several student jobs, they still struggled to make ends meet. Each day felt like climbing a mountain just to stay enrolled. Every bit of Amina and Oumou's free time was spent discussing ideas for side hustles that might help them fully cover their tuition. "Our school calendar is packed with all the classes," Oumou said. "Even if we work our student part-time jobs the rest of the week, we won't be able to pay all the fees. We need to find something that pays really well, and we need it now." One evening, while Amina and Oumou were studying together, Oumou took out her phone and started scrolling through social media. She came across the account of a childhood friend, Zinzi. She showed her phone to Amina, excited. "Look, it's Zinzi. Do you remember her? We went to the same high school before she dropped out," Oumou said. Amina raised an eyebrow. "She's living so well now. It's like she became rich overnight." They spent an hour going through her social media, looking at every post. Zinzi was an amazingly beautiful young woman, known for her lavish lifestyle. Her social media was full of designer clothes, fine dining, and exotic trips. She seemed to live a life of luxury, one that everyone envied. People often asked her how she made so much money, but she would just smile and say, "I'm a hustler. You do what you have to do to live well." After browsing Zinzi's account, Oumou looked at Amina and said, "I think we should talk to her. It looks like she has a side hustle that brings in a lot of money, so she might be able to help us." Amina was skeptical. She knew it was hard to get that rich in such a short period of time with a regular job. But Oumou was so excited that Amina agreed, hoping it wouldn't lead them into something they couldn't handle. Oumou didn't hesitate for a second and texted Zinzi, who was happy to talk. After a brief conversation, they decided to meet the next day at a cafe. When Zinzi arrived at the meeting point, Amina and Oumou were in awe. She was wearing a sleek outfit, looking every bit as wealthy and put together as her photos on social media. She welcomed them warmly, clearly enjoying the attention they gave her. "So, how are you girls doing?" Zinzi asked, glancing at their simple clothes and notebooks. She could see the struggle on their faces. "We're good," Oumou said quickly, then got straight to the point. "Zinzi, we wanted to know, how do you make your money? You live so well, and we're really struggling to pay for school." Zinzi smiled. "I don't usually talk about my side hustle, but we're friends, and I like you both, so I will." Amina and Oumou were thrilled to hear what she had to say. "It's simple, really," she continued. "I spend nights with rich men. They pay a lot for a little company. You don't need to do anything too bad. Just be open-minded. Some of them have strange requests, but it's worth it. Amina shifted uncomfortably, but Oumou seemed intrigued. Zinzi went on. You two are beautiful. You could make money faster than you could imagine. No more worries about school fees, and you could even help your families. Look at me. I get to live the life I want. Oumou's eyes lit up, while Amina looked away, still uncertain. That night, the girls had a long discussion about Zinzi's offer. Oumou insisted they should try it, while Amina wasn't on board, fearing it would be something they couldn't handle. But after a few days of thinking it over, Amina decided to give it a try. She trusted Oumou and thought maybe Zinzi was exaggerating about the strange requests. Oumou was thrilled, feeling like they were finally going to escape their struggles. Zinzi arranged for them to meet a client at a luxury hotel. Amina and Oumou dressed up, trying to look confident, though they were nervous. When they arrived, the client greeted them politely and offered them drinks. Everything seemed fine at first. Then his request started, and it became clear what he really wanted. He asked to defecate on them, saying it was his preference. Amina felt a wave of disgust wash over her. She excused herself and rushed to the bathroom, almost throwing up. She couldn't believe what was happening. Zinzi followed her into the bathroom, looking annoyed and snapping. "What's wrong with you?" Amina looked at her horrified. "This is disgusting, Zinzi. How can you allow someone to do this to you?" "What did you expect, Amina? I told you I'm a hustler," Zinzi replied sharply. "Oh no, Zinzi. Letting rich men defecate on you for money is definitely not hustling." Zinzi rolled her eyes. "Fine. If you can't handle it, leave, but don't say I didn't try to help you." With that, she turned and went back to the client. Amina knew she couldn't stay. She left the hotel, her mind racing. She couldn't believe what she had almost been a part of. But Oumou didn't leave with her. She decided to stay, going through with the client's requests, in exchange for a large payment. The next day, Amina rushed to Oumou's dorm room, hoping that her best friend had turned down the client's request. But to her surprise, she found Oumou counting a big pile of banknotes. Shocked, Amina said, "Oumou, please tell me you didn't." "Yes, I did," Oumou replied casually. "It wasn't that bad, a bit strange, but after you take a shower, it's all good." Amina started yelling, "You want to be a lawyer? Imagine if someone finds out about this later. Your life and career would be over." But Oumou didn't care. She shrugged and said, "No one will know. There's no proof. And anyway, to be a lawyer, you need money to pay for law school. No money, no career. So please leave me alone." Amina was heartbroken but didn't push further. She didn't want to create tension between herself and her best friend. Amina tried to return to her normal life, but things only got harder. She took on extra student jobs, working 7 days a week, but still struggled financially. Without enough money to pay tuition, she had no choice but to leave university temporarily. She planned to work hard for a year and save up. "I might lose a year, but at least I'll have peace of mind," she told herself. So she found a job as a maid. Meanwhile, Oumou's life was flourishing. She paid her law school tuition fees, bought new clothes, and even got a car. Zinzi kept introducing her to wealthier men with even stranger requests, but Oumou was earning more and more money. She already had enough to pay for university, but now that she had a taste of the rich life, she couldn't stop. Oumou was also spending more and more time with Zinzi and rarely spoke to Amina. When they did meet, Oumou often mocked her. "You're wasting your time cleaning houses while I'm making real money," she would say, laughing. "Just come with us and you'll be able to afford uni." But Amina didn't care about that. She kept working as a maid for a wealthy family, the Keitas, hoping to save enough to return to university the next year. Every day she worked hard, cleaning their large house and staying focused on her dream. The Keitas had only one son, Hakim. He was about the same age as Amina, but they barely spoke. All she knew was that he was studying at the most prestigious and expensive university in the city and visited his parents occasionally. One day, while cleaning, Amina noticed Hakim studying math at the dining table, clearly frustrated. She watched him for a moment, then offered to help. Hakim was surprised, wondering how a maid could help him solve complex math problems. But he didn't want to seem rude, so he accepted her help. Within minutes, Amina explained the problem in a way he understood, and the answer was correct. He was impressed by her intelligence, and from then on, he often asked her for help with his studies whenever he was home. One evening, they worked late together, and Hakim offered to drop Amina off at her small house. On the way, he decided to learn more about her. "Amina, I don't want to be rude, but how can a genius like you work as a maid? Not that being a maid isn't respectable, but you should be at university right now." Amina felt uncomfortable, but decided to tell the truth. "Oh, I was enrolled, but I had to drop out because I couldn't afford the tuition fees anymore. Now I'm working to save enough money for next year." Hakim was shocked. Coming from a wealthy family, he didn't realize that being smart wasn't enough to succeed in university if you couldn't afford it. He felt bad for Amina. She was a beautiful girl with a good heart who deserved the world. After dropping her off, Hakim returned home and spoke to his parents about her. He wanted them to help Amina, but they weren't sure at first. "Sponsoring someone's education is a big commitment," they said. "Let's take some time to get to know her better first." While Amina kept working hard, Oumou's life took a darker turn. Her experiences with Zinzi's clients haunted her. She lost her appetite, often feeling sick just looking at food. Oumou wanted to quit, but the money and lifestyle were hard to give up. She kept pushing through, ignoring her growing discomfort. One night, Zinzi introduced her to a client who promised an even bigger payout, but his request was more extreme than any before. He wanted to defecate, not on her chest as usual, but in her mouth. Oumou hesitated, but Zinzi convinced her to go through with it, saying, "You'll get a lot of money, and after this, you can stop if you want. It's the last time, I promise." Oumou was deeply unhappy with the idea and promised herself that this would be her final time. She wanted to quit. She was disgusted by everything and felt like an object. After the appointment, Oumou left feeling sick to her core. Soon after, she developed a fever but brushed it off, thinking it was just from the shock. However, her condition worsened, and soon she could hardly breathe. She was later rushed to the hospital after calling an ambulance. The doctors discovered she had developed sepsis from that night with the client, and her case was severe. They tried everything, but the infection spread, and eventually she lost her arms and legs. Her once fancy life was gone. Meanwhile, months passed, and Amina and Hakim became very close friends. Mr. and Mrs. Keita noticed Amina's dedication to both her work and her dreams. She never complained, never took anything that wasn't hers, and never asked for help. They were impressed, especially seeing how she helped Hakim with his studies. One day, Mr. and Mrs. Keita called Amina into the living room and shared some good news. They wanted to sponsor her education, not just with a small contribution, but a full scholarship covering fees and a living allowance until she finished her studies. "We know you already lost a year," they said, "but if you work hard and take extra classes, you can catch up. We believe you can do it." Amina was overwhelmed with gratitude. She cried tears of joy, relieved that her perseverance had finally led to something good. Amina was so excited that she rushed to Hakim's room and hugged him. Hakim's heart was beating fast. He would now have Amina with him every day at university, and the thought made him so happy. Maybe he was catching feelings for her, After all, who wouldn't love such an amazing girl? After celebrating with Hakim, Amina wanted to tell Oumou the news. Even though they weren't as close as before, Oumou was still her best friend. So she took her phone and called her. When Oumou answered, Amina heard a small, tired voice saying, "Hi, Amina. Please, I need your help. I'm at the main hospital, and I have no one else." She then burst into tears. Amina didn't ask questions and rushed to the hospital, her heart pounding in her chest. When she entered Oumou's room, she found her lying on the bed without her arms and legs. Amina was horrified. Both of them started crying and hugged each other. Oumou told her everything that had happened. Amina was furious and wanted to confront Zinzi, but Oumou didn't want revenge. She admitted that she was responsible for her own choices and couldn't fully blame Zinzi. Meanwhile, Zinzi hadn't tried to help Oumou at all. Instead, she blocked her on all platforms, completely uncaring about her fate. Zinzi continued with her lifestyle, convinced she was untouchable. But karma was about to hit her. One day, a video of her surfaced online. A video of her being degraded by a client. The client's wife had discovered it and shared it publicly as revenge, and the video quickly went viral. Zinzi's life fell apart. Her secret was now out in the open, and her family disowned her, ashamed of her actions. Her wealthy clients cut ties, not wanting to be associated with the scandal. She was left with nothing, her reputation in ruins. Desperate, Zinzi tried to find a job to pay her bills, but her face was recognized everywhere, and no one would hire her. Out of options and money, Zinzi came up with a desperate idea. She contacted a former client, threatening to expose him publicly and tell his wife if he didn't give her money. The wealthy client agreed to meet her that same night. When she got into his car, he offered her a glass of wine. She took a sip, thinking she was in control. But as she drank, he spoke calmly. "Ah, Zinzi, you played with fire. Didn't anyone ever teach you that blackmail brings trouble? You chose the wrong person to mess with." Zinzi didn't understand at first, but suddenly she felt dizzy. The wine glass slipped from her hand as her vision blurred. The client had put something in her drink to silence her for good. In her last moments, Zinzi realized her life was over. The consequences of her choices finally catching up to her. A single tear rolled down her cheek before she closed her eyes forever. A few months later, Amina returned to university with Hakim by her side. They worked hard together, and Amina was top of her class at every semester. After spending so much time together, Hakim and Amina realized they were deeply in love. He was fascinated by her intelligence and kindness, and Amina loved how hard-working, caring, and humble Hakim was. They planned a future together, her dreams finally coming true through hard work and integrity. Mr. and Mrs. Keita were secretly hoping that their son would end up with Amina. Meanwhile, Oumou recovered emotionally from the trauma of losing her limbs. She left university and found a new purpose in helping others, dedicating her life to preventing others from making the mistakes she had. She started giving talks at high schools, sharing her story and Zinzi's story as a warning about the high cost of chasing wealth without values. She even started a fundraiser to provide scholarships for young women. Amina and Oumou remained close, grateful to have each other in their lives and stronger than ever. 5 years after these events, Oumou stood on the beach, watching Hakim drop to one knee and ask Amina the life-changing question, "Will you marry me?" A new chapter of their lives was about to begin.
Hey, tale lovers. We wish the main topic of this story was just a weird fiction coming out of our mind, but unfortunately, it's real. We are not judging anyone, we just want to bring awareness to certain topics. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment your thoughts. Until next time, see you and keep the stories alive.